Today we're talking about board games to get you thinking and great games to play with aging parents.
Welcome to episode 280 of the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, where we're going to be answering a question from a fan who's looking to play games with their aging mother, specifically hoping to find games that can slow or stop cognitive decline. Now, we're also going to share some thoughts on Gnome Hollow in our Bellhop's Tabletop segment where we talk about the games we've been playing. But since we just recorded 3 days ago, we've only got that one game in.
Hey, at least we played something. Review-wise, we're going to wrap up with detailed reviews of two quick-to-learn, difficult-to-master games, those being Courtisans from Pandasaurus and Santorini 2nd Edition from Roxley and Asmodee.
Let's start with some quick introductions. I'm Sean, your host, and with me is Deanna, our no longer behind-the-scenes blog pro.
Hello to all the Bellhop boarders.
And of course, the Tabletop Bellhop himself.
I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, helping you make your game nights better.
Now, when we're on schedule, we record on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern live at twitch.tv/Tabletop Bellhop, and we love it when people join us in the lobby, our chat room here on Twitch. That said, next week, our plan is to record on Thursday, September 11th.
Yeah, I hate that we're back and we're on schedule, sort of, almost close. We're really close. That's actually due to the fact that we were honored to be invited to Asmodee's 30th anniversary party, the Asmodee Canada party, and that's on the 10th, which is next Wednesday. Deanna and I will be attending that, so we wouldn't be able to record that day. Plus, I actually kind of want to talk about this event. I have no idea what to expect. We don't even know what's happening. We just know it's in the middle of the afternoon, and there's some kind of party. So I want to be able to talk about how that goes. So I figured recording the day after the Asmodee 30th anniversary party would be the best option. So you can expect to see us next week on Thursday instead of Wednesday. That's the 11th of September.
At the same time, 8 p.m. All right, next up, a bit of housekeeping. First, disclosure. Wherever you're consuming this, any links you see are most likely affiliate links. When you use one of our affiliate links, it costs you nothing extra and helps to support the show. Next, you can find links to everything that we talk about in this episode in our show notes over at tabletopbellhop.com, episode 280. That's 280. Finally, I want to acknowledge that this episode exists because of the support of our awesome Patreon patrons. And again, I want to give you all a shout out for sticking with us during our downtime.
The Tabletop Bellhop is here to answer your gaming and game night questions.
Tonight's question comes from Natalie. She was at one of our Walkerville game nights, and it was her first time out, and I was chatting with her at the end of the night talking about how we have a podcast and that we answer questions. And so she immediately asked me one. She was talking about her aging mom and how she's looking for games to introduce her, games that would specifically help her combat cognitive decline. So we talked a bit about how Alzheimer's sucks, and she was quick to point out that her mom is not suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, or just getting older and looking for ways to keep her mind sharp. Natalie wanted some game recommendations for seniors who are new to hobby games and who want something to help keep their mind active. She specified that the games had to have simple rules and be easy to learn, but be like a meaty strategic game and not a kiddie game.
Well, thank you so much for the question, Natalie. I think it's pretty awesome that we're having people at our local events now come up and ask us questions. It's kind of cool. It's getting more people to know about the Dear Abbey of Gamers side of what we do, and not just that we're just board game hosts. So that's actually pretty cool. To me, this is a very poignant question, actually, because many of you know, some may not, that I lost my dad to dementia, Alzheimer's not that long ago. And honestly, it's my dad that taught me my lifelong love of gaming. He was a gamer as long as possible and spent many, many years near the end there, no longer able to take part in the hobby he loved. And actually, it's gaming that led to us discovering that he was having a problem. The two of us were heading to a local Knights of Columbus for some beers. And on the way there, I thought it'd be kind of amusing. And I grabbed a couple sealed decks of Magic I still had sitting around. And now we hadn't played in a few years, thinking this will be a fun surprise. We'll have a couple beers and I'll break out the Magic decks. Well, I did that, and my dad got the cards and he just looked bewildered, and like we fumbled through a couple turns and he seemed totally lost. And he's just like, I can't do it. And I tried to coach him on the rules and it just didn't work. And at that point, we realized my dad has forgotten how to play Magic. And that was one of the big indicators. And it was right after that we got him tested. And sure enough, he was actually already in the stages of Alzheimer's. So watching him struggle to go through this, like I get it. I understand wanting to do everything you can to prolong that decline.
And while there has been dementia and diminishing capacity on my mother's side, particularly with my grandmother, who it was tough to watch struggle with issues and essentially forget who her daughter was. On my father's side, my grandfather was only struggling with a few minor memory issues right up until he passed away at 104. So everyone is very, very different. And genetics and medical histories play a large part in this, no matter what you do.
So yeah, this topic's kind of close to me, but we do have some experience trying various games with my dad. The stuff that stuck around the longest, of course, was what he played the most, which was traditional card games. So my dad was able to still play card games. He was still part of the euchre club for a while. And sports-wise, he was still able to play sports, which is not tabletop, but he was still playing baseball and bowling quite a bit after. And he was still into video games. My dad played Lord of the Rings online solo up until near the end, which was pretty impressive. So yeah, we did try a variety of different games with my dad, and we are kind of used to having to deal with that decline.
Now, before we get into recommending specific games, we're going to talk a little bit about the science. As always, we must point out that none of us are medical professionals. There's always more research being done and more we are learning, in particular about our brains all the time. Neuroscience is still a growing field. However, the evidence that I have read up on generally suggests that the playing of games only improves highly specific actions. So playing Sudoku helps you play Sudoku. Playing Santorini helps you play Santorini. And with that, the other associated specific narrow skills that are associated with that particular game, but doesn't broadly impact abstract concepts like brain health or brain age, as many marketing people would like you to believe. Now, note, I'm specifically speaking about adults and aging adults here, not children. Brain development in children with their high neuroplasticity is a very different topic that we're not going to broach here.
So again, none of us are medical practitioners. I did a deep dive. I spent a day, reading through what I hoped was legit medical information and medical journals online, trying to read up on some of this. I did see one thing consistent across everything I was reading is that they show that board games, because of the socialization, it helps with depression and loneliness and socialization in seniors, and that it had all those mental health benefits, which I'm like, yeah, board games are awesome, right?
And that said, we aren't denying the benefits of playing games and keeping the mind active, particularly when the mind is young and healthy. It's much like building up a child's immune system. Studies have absolutely shown that actively playing games as young, healthy adults can delay the onsets of some problems later in life.
Right. Like there was one French study, and I'll try and drop the link in the thing, and it was a pretty detailed medical paper, but they did some study in France where they followed a cohort for, it was either 20 or 30 years. And they were like, we're pretty sure that board games are helping them not have cognitive decline because you had a baseline and this is what's happening and blah, blah, blah. And the people that played board games seem to have less cognitive decline, less dementia. But the end result was basically they summed it up by, we would have to do, it's a blind study to be able to prove da, 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 da. Short of that, though, board games are fun. They're not hurting anyone. It's an easy thing to do. It probably helps with cognitive decline. Go play games. That was basically the gist of the end of it. I'm being a little more upbeat than they were. It was a medical journal.
Yeah, but to me, that's the take home, right? That's the important thing. It can't hurt. There's no negative effect of playing board games. And if they happen to do a positive effect, all the better. But even without that, the social parts of it are definitely proven, and there are studies showing that. So it can't hurt. Why not? If this does help, great. This is awesome. If it slows dementia, amazing. If it doesn't, it's still fun playing games and hanging out with your parents and your aging community. Like it's still a worthwhile cause, no matter what.
So I think basically we can agree that it may slow cognitive decline, but nothing's going to wind things back. If you have an Alzheimer's, dementia, already have that diagnosis, playing games isn't going to fix it or make or rewind time.
All right, now that we've got that ironed out, let's move on to what kind of games we think are a good choice for playing with people who are experiencing mental decline, with a specific focus on the kinds of games Natalie is looking for. Easy to learn with some depths, not kids' games.
So I also gave some thought to what makes a game easy or difficult for older people to play. Like, we have a weekly game night with my mom, who's in her 70s, and she's not new to hobby games because we force her to play them all the time. So this list is not for her, but she sometimes struggles with the game because of how small the icons are, or how big of a table hog it is. You don't think of that if it ends up being very far away from you on the other side of the table, right? Too far away for her to see easily. So there's that vision issue, and I think most seniors have vision issues of some kind. And I know some folks have difficulty manipulating tiny pieces, etc. So like really tiny games with lots of little wooden components might just be frustrating and annoying. So I was keeping that in mind while making this list.
So based on the question from Natalie, like, to me, what it sounds like is what she's looking for to play with her mom is what we tend to call easy to learn, difficult to master games. And I realize that's quite the catch-all, and there's a lot of games that fall under that category, but we're looking for stuff that you can learn in minutes. There's not thick rule books, often a page, maybe like 4 pages or less, and you can get the core mechanics down very quickly. But then once you start playing, you realize it's not just rolling the dice or playing some cards and moving pieces. There's actual strategy and tactics required. Plus, knowing the game and game mastery matters. So we tried to stick with games that, like, yes, you can play better by playing more often, and you can learn strategies, and you are really challenging yourself and your opponent at a, duel of wits in a way.
All right, well, games like Splendor, Azul, Carcassonne, Alhambra, Ticket to Ride, classics, regarded as great gateway or welcoming games for a reason. Games I don't think we need to say more about.
I'll give it to you. So one of the first things that came to mind for me was simple abstract games like Boop. And then I realized Boop might get vetoed for looking like a kid's game. Like, I gave Mo flack one time. The first time he introduced it to me, it was in a cafe, and I didn't want to be seen playing this game to look like it was for toddlers in public. So maybe Zensu is a better option. Zensu is always the better option.
I'll toss Shobu in there too, because I think that's another one that those 3 games to me kind of are like a trinity of great abstract strategy games, good to teach, but it definitely takes a while to master. They're quite challenging once you get into it. I'm also going to throw Santorini in there as another abstract game, though the newest version, the 2nd edition, and then the Roxley editions are definitely a little more thematic. This has that advantage of, like, I can teach the game in under a minute, but then it offers ways to add more complexity because you can play without the gods and you can throw them in once you've mastered the basic game.
So with Courtisans, you get 3 cards, keep 1, give 1 to an opponent, and place 1 at the center of the table to help determine each suit's rank. We can teach this one in under a minute, but it features a ton of player interaction.
Land versus Sea. It's a great tile laying game. You're making a map. It's got this cool look to it. But the caveat is it does have a lot of little tiny icons, a lot of visual things going on. So if there's any vision issues there, this game can be a little frustrating. Another one I wanted to recommend was Finspan. Now, this might seem like it's a bit of a step up compared to some of the games that we're recommending. But honestly, if you haven't tried it yet, of the Wormspan, Wingspan list, Finspan is the simplest. It's just been distilled down to the simplest possible version of the span games, I would say. And you front load it a bit, but it's actually a quite simple game that I think someone, once they got past the learning of the rules, would really enjoy.
Now, one that I know I enjoyed playing with my dad back in the day because he had a set was Corridor. And honestly, I'm pretty much going to call out all the Gigamic wooden, the high-end heirloom-looking wooden board games. Corridor has the advantage of recently releasing a Pac-Man version. Check out our review on that. You can still play the base game, but I love the Pac-Man look, the retro look to that game. I find very impressive. And then another abstract game that Deanna and I continue to enjoy and expect we'll be playing until our old age is Patchwork and all the various varieties of that, with a new anniversary edition out fairly recently that supposedly has the best mix of patches ever.
So here's 3 games that border on mass market and hobby games. Stuff you should be able to find at any big box stores, and that is Blockus, Quirkle, and Ingenious. These are all about making patterns with shapes and colors.
Those are all great games. It's one of those whenever I go into a store, I'm like, okay, good. They at least have blockers. One of the other things I've noticed is, especially with our aging community, is there are a lot of war game fans, like war style games. And Memoir 44 is the game if you want a gateway intro. That game sometimes scares people because it's a big box, but it's actually a dead simple system. It's a simplified version of the Command and Color system. Memoir 44, especially if you've got that war buff in the family, is probably going to be a great choice. Jumping back to abstract games, Harmonies is a really neat game about building a landscape and trying to attract animals. But that one's a step up from, say, Azul. Like we recommended Azul. If you played Azul with your parents and they get it, they grok it, they're enjoying it, maybe Harmonies is a good next step game after that. I find the theme really draws people in, and I love how tactile the board is. Where you're going to have a problem, though, is it does require some stacking, so some dexterity is still required.
Point Salad is another one that I think you can teach it to people in under 2 minutes. And it's got the neat double-sided cards. It doesn't get stale when you play it over and over again. It's just a solid game.
So cooperative games, if people are having trouble or as they are having trouble learning games and things, cooperative games offer you that opportunity to help them along in ways where you're not cheating. You're actually all supposed to be working together.
So Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters was, of course, the first one that came to mind. This is technically a kid's game. It is not my favorite game because I hate co-op games, but I know Mo loves this game and will, to his dying breath, argue that it is not just for kids. And then we've got Pandemic. I mean, when you say cooperative games, Pandemic, right? But if that theme is a little anymore. So I think instead try Horrified Universal Monsters. The Horrified games in general is a good co-op experience, but it's a lightweight. And the Universal Monsters IP, I think, appeals to the older generation. I know my mom dug it, so.
Absolutely. Another option would be Hanabi, a game about playing cards in order, but you don't get to see your own hand.
One of the first cooperative games that kind of hooked our kids, and again, we're not supposed to be talking about kids games, but honestly, for lightweight, easy to learn games, it's the kids game category actually has some great games in it, would be Forbidden Island. This is a family weight game about trying to collect 4 artifacts and escape a sinking island. And this, to me, is one of the best games for introducing someone new to the world of cooperative games if they're used to just playing competitive games. And this actually was a game that actually helped one of our kids learn to read because they were enjoying it so much.
The game, it's simple but engaging. You're just trying to play all the cards in a deck numbered 1 to 100. But you can't communicate with each other.
Well, next we have mysteries and escape room style games.
Okay, so I just think this style of game is great for older people to suck them into gaming if maybe they think they don't really want to game. So we go over to my mom's house and we play mystery games, and Mo's mom is there and she's in the corner and she is adamant that she is not playing games. She does not care for games. But every time we're playing a mystery game, about 10 minutes in, she's yelling out clues. She's getting involved. She wants to see the props. So, I mean, I think it's just a great way to get people involved.
So we're talking about the Exit Game series, games from Mysterious Package Company, Puzzling Pursuits, the Chronicles of Crime series, and the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective series.
So I am going to say vision issues can make some of these games frustrating. The exit games in specific, I have found, have a lot of puzzles that rely on having sharp vision to pick out details or like, where's Waldo, or find the differences between these two pictures, which I find hard to do because of the vision issues I have. With stuff like Mysterious Package Company, they have that very cool 3-foot-tall paper dollhouse Dimensions. Like, we actually stalled out with that game because it was a lot of looking around to spot small details and a lot of vision-based puzzles. And again, that can get really frustrating if you don't have great eyesight. So my mom and I were both working on it, and we were both ready to toss the thing out a window. But another game that we had for Mysterious Package Company, The Ghost in the Machine, that was more of a Which Way book experience with tons of sleuthing and puzzle solving, and it was not really relying on you having keen vision. So it really depends on the specific game. And since you can't pre-play a mystery game to check it out, I highly recommend checking out reviews first. But then again, playing with the team can help with that, right? Because you're not doing it by yourself. You're playing in a group, and as long as you have some parts that are not relying on vision, and you're still people are trading off, and everyone's having fun, that can work too.
Yeah, what's great about cooperative games like that is the fact that you probably have different people with different skill levels and different acuities. So if the aging parent is having a hard time seeing, maybe the either yourself or a younger sibling or someone could do that part of the game, right? Another one I would toss in there is the Hunter Killer series. We have a very impressive The Hunter's Lodge Deluxe box. Man, is that ever an artifact as well as a game. Now, when I was originally working on the list tonight, before we kind of distilled things down and kind of started putting things into buckets, I actually had puzzle games mixed in with the mystery and escape room games. And some of the exit games border between escape room and puzzle. And the puzzling pursuit games are a little more puzzly than mystery. But puzzles themselves are just a great option, like standard jigsaw puzzles. I have no idea what these are called. Maybe Sean can come up with the term. I was asking Deanna earlier, but those physical puzzles where you're like, here's 7 different weird shaped wooden blocks, put them together and make a pyramid, or here's the ring that's on this weird metal and wood thing and you have to get the ring off. I don't know what you call those, like physical puzzles. I don't know what the term is.
They'd be a dexterity puzzle, really. They're not.
But usually they don't require dexterity as much as figuring out the trick is what I find for those. I don't know. My dad loved those. Even as he was aging, like some of the gifts we would get him every year would come from, Leisure World and the Man Shop, and they'd be these various Rubik's Cube type of things. Those type of games. I don't know what you call them, but in going back to stuff we've talked about in the past is all of the various puzzle boxes we've talked about. Like just search Escape Welt and Tabletop Bellhop, and you'll find all of our reviews of these various puzzle boxes. And if the person still has the puzzle, the dexterity, you can even get these where you build the
box
which surprisingly doesn't solve the puzzle for you.
So mechanical puzzle is apparently
mechanical puzzles. Okay.
There you go. I totally blanked when Mo asked me earlier. I'm like, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what to call them. Some board games boil down to being puzzles as well. Like Decorum is a multiplayer logic puzzle. Sagrada is a puzzle where you're trying to fill a pattern with dice where you can't have the same color and number touching. And even Azul, we might be able to put down there as sort of a puzzle that you have to solve where you can best lay out the tiles.
All right, well, next up we have traditional card games. If the person you are playing with grew up playing euchre or cribbage, there's no reason not to keep playing it with them. For something fresh, there are a number of great modern card games based on traditional playing card games.
So if they already like Trick Takers, it is a simple step up into games like Thrones of Valeria, Skull King, Reign of Dragoness, Diamonds, or Wizard. Xylotar, that has a lot of deductive reasoning, and there's a neat twist of you not being able to see your own hand. So that's a nifty trick taker. Sandbag is another trick taker. It sort of inverts things, making you want to lose most tricks, and also has that interesting bit where you can change the trump mid-hand. And then there's the Crew, cooperative trick taking, right? So that's great for all the reasons that we said co-op games are great, and is also good for people that already dig trick takers.
And just to toss a few more modern card games based on traditional card games, I want to throw in Trio, otherwise known as Nana. The version we have is Nana, which is a neat deduction game where you're trying to find 3 cards by having players show you their highest or lowest card. Really simple to learn, a lot of fun. I don't know if this really fits in the difficult to master, but again, right now what we're talking about is card games. So the person you're playing with grew up playing card games. These will be familiar. Cat in the Box is one of the most unique trick takers out there, kind of along the lines with Xylotar. Cat in the Box, you don't know what suit the card is until you play it, which is kind of interesting. And then Crits and Tricks is coming soon from Inside Up Games. We loved this game at Adam, and this is a game where it combines trick taking with Dungeons & Dragons dice, where you roll a set of dice and you assign them to the cards as you play them to set their value. This one's fantastic if you have a parent that is into RPGs in any way and card games. Now, speaking of RPGs, I got to say, I know we're a board game podcast and we mainly talk board games. Role-playing games are a fantastic thing to do with your parents. I have tried many times over the years to get my parents to sit down and play. Sometimes I did, and every time they did, they had a great time. Talk about using the imagination, doing basic math. A lot of the skills that are in board games are in modern role-playing games. No, it doesn't have to be Dungeons & Dragons. Just find a game that's about something they're already into and something they like. We're not going to list off a bunch of RPGs, but before we move on to our honorable mention, I just want to throw in that role-playing games are also a great style of game to play with your aging parents.
And along that note, theme matters, and picking a game that has a theme that intrigues them is going to go a long way. Not just for enticing them to get to the table, but also for rules mastery and understanding. When the theme makes sense, you just keep the rules in your head better.
All right. Well, next up, we've got some honorable mentions, as we always do in our lists.
So the first one I got is Cascadia. We need to play this game. Like every time we talk about harmonies and people are like, is it better in Cascadia? This is a puzzly tile laying game that, again, is about building a habitat, which is why the two get compared. This came up on pretty much everyone else's list of easy to learn, simple to master games. That came out wrong. Difficult to master, easy to learn, difficult to master games. That was everywhere. I did some researching, and everyone recommends Cascadia. So we're gonna pile on that group as an honorable mention because we haven't played it ourselves. But everyone seems to think Cascadia is one of the best to fit that criteria of simple to learn, difficult to master. And then finally, I'm going to call out Scout, because if I don't, I'm amazed our chat room hasn't mentioned it yet. Whenever I talk about modern card games for fans of traditional games, people usually yell Scout at us. I think if we were recording live, people would be throwing copies of the game at us. This is considered by many to be the best ladder climbing game. It's in the Board Game Geek Top 100. That's for a ladder climbing card game, and it's the number 15 family game. So it's got to be doing something right. We just don't have a copy. I know local gamers who have copies, and we need to get together some night so you can show us Scout.
All right. Well, there you have. That's what we were able to come up with. Now we're going to stop into our chat room and see what they have to add. They've been busy. We haven't had a lot of different people speaking up, but we have had a lot of suggestions in there. We're going to start off with Roger mentioning Suro and Legendary Forests, both working well with older folk.
So I had Suro on our list. The problem is when we first made our list earlier today, it was 44 flipping games because there are a lot of great, easy to learn, difficult to master games out there. So we had to cut things down. Suro was one of the ones we cut down.
Next,
I think when we started, it was at 60. I trimmed a bunch.
He mentions his 90-year-old mother-in-law loves the game Skull, calling it the devil's game.
Skull the Devil. It's a biker's game. I guess that's kind of close. Yeah, Skull's a good one. The social cues required to play Skull. I think it's it's a very social game. Honestly, like we've been in enough retirement homes. You see the group sitting around. Can you imagine them all holding coasters and betting on how many tiles you could flip? I think it would work well. I think that's a great recommendation.
Now, Roger goes on to say his mom loved euchre and played two-handed all the time, right up and close to the end. Also mentions cribbage again with the classic card games we were talking about, but does mention that holding cards can be a challenge for some folk, and that card holders are definitely something to consider for some of the aging population if dexterity is becoming an issue. All right, next up, we've got from Ryan mentioning Catan. We didn't list that one in our regulars. I'm not as sure about that one.
Yeah, Catan, I don't know. Catan's like such an odd duck in a way because there's multiple different skills you're using when playing the game. And while a lot of hobby gamers think it's dead simple, to a brand new gamer, I think there's a lot to learn in that game. And there's a lot of interactions. There's a lot of things you have to focus about. And there's I almost want to say a heavy memory accent, but it's not memory because everything's there on a card in front of you. But like remembering what it takes to build different things and why you want to build them. And to me, it was a step above at least the games we chose to keep on the list. I don't think it's a terrible recommendation, but honestly, I think like Catan became as popular as it is because it was the only option, right? There weren't these other awesome modern board games that are so much easier to learn with so much shorter rule books and still having depth and strategy to them.
Now, what I can say is because there is currently a generation of people who have played the heck out of Catan and are aging, as we were saying at the beginning, playing a game makes your brain better at that game. So
Yes.
as our generation is aging up, Catan will become a good game to play with us in our aged time.
Yes.
Because it's already as sort of built into us as euchre might have been or cribbage might have been to our parents.
Yeah. And I will call it like Red Meeple Ryan saying, played Catan with my 80-year-old non-gamer grandmother, and she kept up. So I kind of like whenever we talk about kids games, everyone's parents, everyone's different, right?
Your mileage may vary. Every human is different.
Yes.
Now we also have Roger mentioning Flip 7 is great. Absolutely. If you're going card games, Flip 7's hard to deny. And The Gang as a great cooperative game.
Now, The Gang is a terrible cooperative game if you don't know Texas Hold'em, and a great cooperative game if you do. We learned that firsthand. So if you have any poker fans, if your aging parent is a poker fan, The Gang is probably an absolutely awesome choice.
All right, well, there you have a bunch of games that we think are great for playing with people who are starting to have some trouble playing games. Games to keep them entertained and being social.
So if you think we missed some, you should let us know in the comments. Reply to the social media post, send an email to mo@tabletopbellhop.com, or better yet, join our Discord and start up a conversation there. And we've got an episode feedback section that's great for discussing our podcast topics.
And you can find that at discord.tabletopbellhop.com.
Okay, we just listed over 40 games. So remember, we put links to everything we mention in our show notes. Head over to tabletopbellhop.com/episode 280, and you'll see a big old list there.
And just know contacting Mo on Monday, because he's going to be putting those notes together. I will be busy.
Welcome to the Bellhop's Tabletop, where we talk about the games we've been playing lately. Seeing as how we just recorded 3 days ago, there's not much to talk about.
Yeah, unlike last week where we recapped 2 months of gaming, tonight we just have one game to talk about. I was hoping to get in a second one. It didn't happen. This is Gnome Hollow from the Op and Amon Anderson, played over at Brenda's on Sunday. Now, it's been a while since we talked about this game because we've had this for a while. So this is a reminder. This was Amon's kind of breakthrough game. It's a tile laying game about building mushroom rings. Your gnomes, you build rings get you mushrooms, which you then sell at the pinwheel market to get points. And also every different size ring you do kind of lets you level up and unlock bonuses. And there's like an easy side of the board. There's a hard side where you have to make distinct patterns. We were playing with the easy side, but one of the other things is there's a market where you can trade when you activate signposts. We tried that out. And then there's the whole wildflower thing. Now, the basic game to me fits tonight's topic. Actually, it was on the list. It fits the topic because it's one of those easy to learn, difficult to master games. Like the basic rules, unfortunately, like front loaded in teaching it, and people kind of get a little overwhelmed. But like the basic rules are take 2 tiles and put them out on the board and try to make rings, and then you get rewarded. Now, there are advanced rules like trading in a second side of the board, but like just that basic rule had the game on our list earlier, but I took it off because, again, kind of the same reason we didn't want to put Catan on is it just was a step above the other games on the list. So the last time we played, we did the basic side of the board, but did try the training rules. But most importantly, it was Sean's first ever play, first time I think he's seen Gnome Hollow, except for I think once it was out at Barbershop or at Walkerville. What did you think of Gnome Hollow?
So I have to say, I was impressed immediately. I can definitely see why you folk have been all excited about this game and pushing it. It makes me kind of feel sad that I didn't push it more at Walkerville events, because I always struggle a little bit pushing games that I have no idea what they are. Because we haven't even really talked about it on the show. I mean, it's been a game that you've talked about liking, but not really talked about playing all that much before tonight. So again, it is really easy to pick up these concepts, but because we are gamers, there are edge cases, and we like to find edge cases. And so there are a lot of edge cases, it feels like. And the rule book seems to have covered a lot of them, but possibly not all of them. And so that gets a little frustrating at times, again, because I'm probably overthinking. If you're delving into forums to check a specific way of building rings works, or order of operations in when you take a thing off and put a gnome on and take the things like that. it's the kind of things that we as heavier gamers love exploring, but for more casual gamers, if they were to find that lack of clarity, it could be impactful in a bad way.
I don't know. I was wondering if we were just making things harder than they needed to be. Like, we have gamer brains, so we gravitate towards those edge cases. And if I hadn't overthought it, it all just would have made sense. Like, the rules seemed pretty well written overall until we all started debating it. I was like, I understand exactly what's going on. You also understand exactly what's going on, but you're thinking something different.
Yeah, and to be fair, 99% of that was about the wildflowers and what consisted a ring, and if you could link two wildflowers or three of them, or are those passed between wildflowers and everything. I will say, after going on to the Board Game Geek forums, we were able to find answers, and to be honest, they kind of fit what we thought was the proper answer when we started, but then at the very end realized, no, we should have been more forgiving and went. And to be honest, I think the overall impression should be, if it looks like a ring, it's a ring. Like, just go with that and you're probably good. As for the trading rules, what that is part of the game, you're going to put up signposts, become worker placement spots you can send your gnomes to get mushrooms. Well, with the trading rules, when you do that, you can trade some of the mushrooms you just got to other types. I found it neat. I liked it. It added a layer of depth to the game that wasn't there before, according to me. And it made it easier to collect big groups of one color mushrooms. What I like though more was we played games in the past where like people built signposts because they unlocked building signposts, but no one ever went to one. Whereas now there was a really good reason to go visit them. So it just added more. There was actual hard decisions of, do I go steal a new ring or a new path before someone takes it? Or do I go to the mushrooms so I can trade these to get more mushrooms? And that seemed to happen more. So it seemed like there were more valid strategies with them.
It did seem like people chose to put more signposts out. I don't know. I didn't love the marketplace. To me, it almost felt like it makes the game easier because you don't have to go around and collect the sets. You can just trade for them. And like, I think we had pretty high scores that game, way higher than our previous games that we played without the marketplace. So I think with being able to trade, you trade in more bigger sets.
Yeah, it felt like you were a little, you were gaming the market rather than gaming the mushrooms on the table. I think if that makes sense.
But to me, that seemed like a cool thing. Like, look, you don't just have to try to build the biggest ring or the rings with the most reds or the rings with the most blues. I thought it opened up new strategies. To me, it made the game more tactical.
I think I like that it's optional. I don't know. Yeah. Like, we've only played with that once, but my feeling was I liked it better without.
Now, what we do have to try is the advanced boards. We sat there at a party with the designer who said, this side of the board's insane. and apparently he like worked with a mathematician to come up with it, and it was like that was the publisher of the op going, we want a difficult side for the heavy gamers because we got this family gateway gnome game, but we want to also attract the heavy gamers, so we're going to make this other board. I want to try it. I don't know, we haven't tried it yet. We may learn that it's actually better, like, oh, this is way cooler, but to be honest, like, that's totally optional. So you don't, without that board, I still think this is a solid game that a lot of gamers are going to like. Like, just in general, like a general recommendation, if you're a hobby gamer, you're probably going to like Gnome Hollow.
I believe what Amon said was that he worked with a math professor in general for the whole game to figure out the optimal scoring system and stuff, which was pretty interesting when he was talking about it. So here's my thing. This game is cute. It's like disgustingly cute, right? So Amon did all this lovely watercolor art. Like, it's gorgeous. I love the look of it. I love the magnetic boards. I love the playing pieces and the way you score with these whimsical tokens. I love everything about the game. But I think at first look, it looks like a kid's game. Like, we keep bringing it out to public play events, and I think we've got it to the table once over the past 4 months because people keep turning it down, even when I'm like, how about this one? Because it's bright and pretty and childlike, and they're like, no, I'm good. I don't want to play a kid's game.
Yeah, this is where I think now that Sean's played it, he can better sell it to people when they come in going, I'm looking for a game with some complexity, but not too overwhelming and something we can play with people. Now he can be like, oh, Gnome Hollow. Ignore the cute artwork. This is actually a good game. And I have to say, all those people who think it looks like a kid's game obviously didn't grow up with a copy of Gnomes, the book, in their house.
Well, they haven't actually played it or seen that it has some meat to it, right? But just at a quick look, and the op does do a lot of mainstream stuff. Like, I think there's a perception there that it looks like a kid's game.
Totally fair. All right, well, that's all for what we've been playing. What about you? What hit your table recently? Leave a comment, send an email, post in the What You've Been Playing section of our Discord. The Queen is holding a banquet and has invited all of the prominent houses. You know things are about to get backstabby.
Courtisans is an easy-to-learn, quick-to-play set collection card game with a ridiculous amount of player interaction. Comes from designers Romeric Glanior, Anthony Perrone, and features awesome artwork from Naomi Chevalier. Being published by Pandasaurus Games, who we do have to thank for hooking us up with a review copy, and I do apologize for those pronunciations.
Okay, the component quality here is remarkable. This is mainly a card game, and those cards are large. They're almost tarot-sized, with gold accents and gorgeous artwork. The card sizes, they're like tarot length, but more narrow, which is great because it makes your tableau layout just that tiny bit less of a table hog and makes things fit nicely. The artwork is not only beautiful, it's also functional. Cards feature icons representing different card abilities, and all of this is reflected in the artwork as well. It's something we actually didn't catch until maybe our third play. It's kind of subtle. Like there's one piece of artwork for each family, and then variations and details are added to it. Like the guards have shields and the spies are wearing masks, and then those variations are unique to each suit. It's really well done. Though we do have some complaints about some of the iconography and the names chosen for icons, which we're going to get into later. Back on the plus side of things, instead of a cardboard playing board, the Queen's table is represented by a beautiful cloth playmat that you roll out. And all of this fits in a nice, small, very portable box.
Now, Courtisans plays 2 to 5 players, but is better the more people you have. It's listed as good for ages 8+, which seems about right. While some younger kids could enjoy it as mechanically it's quite simple, it's whether or not they get the strategy and tactics that's questionable. The games are super quick and last at most half an hour, except maybe your first learning game.
So Courtisans is all about manipulating the favor of 6 families in the game, each represented by a different suit of cards, with different color and a different icon. Now, this manipulation is done through clever card play. On a player's turn, they're going to draw 3 cards. They're going to choose one card to keep in their own tableau and kind of represents which families you're backing. You're going to take one and you're going to play it in another player's tableau. And the final card you're going to play at the Queen's table. Now, you don't have to do those in that order. You can kind of mix and match that. Now, when you're placing a card at the Queen's table, you have a choice. You can either put it above or below the playmat.
A card that's placed above the playmat represents that family being in favor with the Queen, while one that is placed below the playmat represents that family falling out of favor. At the end of the game, once the deck is empty, everyone scores points based on where each family is standing. So for each family, you figure out if they have more cards that for being in favor or out of favor or are tied. Players then score 1 point per card in their tableau for each in favor family and lose 1 point for each card from an out of favor family. And then neutral families score no points for anyone.
Now, to make things interesting, many of the cards are special and have roles which give them some form of ability. Nobles count as 2 cards in all cases when figuring out favor or scoring points. Spies are played face down and only revealed at the end of the game. When you play an assassin, you get to remove from play another card in the area you played the assassin, but you can never assassinate a guard, which is the final card type.
Now, there is one more twist to this game. Otherwise, it's really simple. At the start of the game, every player is given 2 end game scoring bonus cards, a hard one and an easy one. These list requirements, like having a specific family be in or out of favor by the end of the game, or collecting more cards of a specific family than the player on your left, and so on. These are added to your final score with no penalty for not completing them. No ticket to ride ticket scoring here.
So the bonus cards are tricky. They give you a goal, but in my experience, one of them will likely be nearly impossible and the other merely difficult. In games with 3 or more players, you increasingly have little direct impact on whether or not you get these rewards.
But it does give you a direction, so you have something to aim for.
And I personally haven't seen that problem. I have never yet in that game not achieved both my goals. So I think there is some randomness in which cards you get. Now, what all this leads to me, is a lot of fun decisions and interesting interactions with the other players. Like every turn, you're impacting yourself, everyone else by playing at the table, and then one player in specific. the way you're trying to build up your tableau and influencing the favors is just really clever. And you're going to spend as much time trying to maximize your points and trying to get your goals as you are trying to hinder your opponents, while also trying to make sure what you're doing for yourself isn't actually helping another player more than you. Added to this is the randomness of the cards. Often you will have cards in your hand you don't want to play, but you have to play them. You have no choice. You have to play the 3 cards, and it's only 1 card per area. So if all the cards are negatives, you're still going to have to play 1 on yourself, for example. Or if you don't want to influence a family, you have no choice. And honestly, you have to figuring out what to do here is actually, to me, a lot of fun. And like figuring out what to do with a bad hand can be just as rewarding as getting that perfect hand that rewards you, bumps up that same color while punishing an opponent for collecting something else. And I really dig that about the game.
It's simple. You're just playing 3 cards each turn, and then you get a new hand. You aren't trying to decide what to hold on to. You're not planning far in advance. You just get those 3 cards each turn, and you have to decide how best to play them. And that simplicity keeps things quick, and it's really easy to teach.
Yeah, one of the things I love most about Courtisans is just how easy it is to teach and how quickly people pick it up. Like the basic premise here just makes sense, and it's all very visual and easy to see. What is being played in the current favor rank of the families is in plain view of everyone, well, except for those dang spies. And the game has a great flow to it. It's also nice and quick. And I think every single group I have ever played this game with or taught it to and watched them play has played at least 2 rounds in a row, if not more.
Yeah, I love that. It's just this tight, fast game that you can sit down and easily play 2 or 3 times in a row.
And where the game does fall down a little bit is in their choice of iconography, which Deanna alluded to earlier, and then what they chose to call some of the house icons. Now, this game was originally published in France, and I think that's some of it. Now, I know this bothered Sean more than it did me or Deanna, so I'll let him extrapolate on this.
So first off, the noble icon is a X2 or ×2 icon on the cards. This can, and I suspect likely will, lead people to misunderstanding how that card works. So plan your teach and your reminders during the game accordingly. It's not ×2 of anything except itself. In my mind, making this a +1 would have made much more sense and been more obvious during the playing of the game. Now, next up, one of the families is repeatedly referred to throughout the cards and rules as butterflies. We have all fully agreed that the imagery used is a moth. Yep. There is no question here. Now, this one is almost certainly a translation issue, as the French for moth is butterfly of the night, papillon de nuit. And so there's almost certainly a translation issue involved in that particular one. Mm-hmm. Now, the last one is the family called nightingale. And while a nightingale is a sweet little songbird and a sort of iconic little bird, I mean, if you're drawing a bird, at any age, you're going to draw something that looks like a nightingale. Yet the graphic is very majestically an owl. I'm not sure how that one can be a translation issue. Thankfully, the others aren't really an issue, and once you've been taught and shown these things, it's not really an issue. The only one that could possibly come up once or twice during that first game is the nobles, and whether the 2x is actually a +1 or not.
Yeah, the confusion arises because there are bonus cards that read, you must own less nightingales than your left neighbor. And if you're sitting there wondering what the heck a nightingale card is, it's no fun. Like, we did that the one game where like, this isn't making sense. I want to show you my bonus card. Well, don't do that. That's going to ruin the game. And I'm like, well, it's...
Yeah, and to be honest, like the first time I taught the game, somehow we didn't get any cards that referenced the moth or the nightingale. So like I didn't even realize it was a problem. And I'm teaching the game to someone and they're like, I don't understand this bonus card. And I'm like, they're all really straightforward. I'm not sure what you don't get. And then I find out it's because it says butterfly. And we're like, yeah, there is no butterfly. I guess the thing with the wings. Another one I do want to point out is I've noticed people tend to misunderstand how to figure out the ranks of the families. And they think the number of cards, like the difference, is what they're going to score. So like if there's 6 cards under in favor and only 2 in out of favor, they're like, oh, I'm going to get 4 points per card. That is not correct. It just shows that family is either in favor, neutral, or not in favor. So make sure you don't mess that one up, because I have seen that mistake made.
I misunderstood it that way. And honestly, the way it does play out, it makes the math in this game dead simple. Everything's worth 1 point or it's not.
Yeah. Except the nobles.
Yeah, I would recommend, if you're teaching this game, take out a card from each of the different households and show everybody, this is a nightingale, this is a butterfly, believe it or not, this is the butterfly, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and again, once you know, it's fine. Like it has no impact on the game. It's not mechanically broken in any way. The only issue is teaching new players and telling them, oh, look, this is the nightingale, this is the thing, and ×2 doesn't mean multiply your points. It just means this card counts as 2.
World's most buff nightingale.
Yes. Now, we first saw this game a couple years ago. This one took us a bit to actually get a copy ourselves and get to the table. We saw it at Gamma Expo, and like immediately I was smitten with this because that cloth mat just draws you in. And it kind of looks like if when you're approaching a booth, it looks like someone doing like a tarot reading. You got these big cards with a cloth mat out in front of it, and they're super colorful. And then you look at them and they're just like, they're really beautiful cards. And like the gold overlay is really nice. It's just high quality. Like the game just feels like a quality game. And then we got a quick overview. But at that point, all I learned was the basic mechanics of you're trying to build the tableau and here's how they're ranked. I had no clue just how clever this game was and how much strategy there is. Despite being like tactical, is you only have 3 cards, you got to deal with what's in your hand. There is planning ahead and there is trying to fulfill those goals. The special cards and roles switch this from like a cute, clever card game to something more deep and interesting. The more we play, the more strategy and tactics we discover. And honestly, the more nasty our games get. There's definitely some deduction in this game. With experienced players, we're like, well, he seems to be collecting an awful lot of nightingales. He must have the goal to have more nightingales on the player on the left. So I'm going to give the player on the left every dang nightingale I draw, right? Stuff like that is kind of like advanced play once you kind of get to know the game. And I find that a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm going to admit that this game drew me in on looks alone, and that doesn't happen often for me, but something about the artwork here just hooked me, which is why I was excited to check it out. And then that first play, I just realized this is a slick game. Like, it just flows.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about simple, I was taught this game after breakfast at a restaurant, and we got 2 games in without anyone being bothered that we were sitting there playing board games in the restaurant. Now, we know at restaurant they're good with us anyway, but still, we didn't even feel, it wasn't even like we were there for an awkward feeling period of time where we felt like we were imposing on people that like having us there.
Yeah, moments I enjoy while playing Courtisans are spies. I love the spies, and especially when I can remember what I put where. And then that reveal at the end where someone thinks like a family's like, oh, I got this. I needed red to be in favor and I collected all these red cards and I'm all good. And then they cringe when they find out that all of the face down spies on the not in favor go to red. I like telling someone they can't remove a card because it's a guard, because that tends to get missed. You get people with their assassins like, I assassinate that guy. I'm like, nope, guard, sorry. I always have fun with that. I love getting a hand of 3 perfect cards where it's like, oh, one is like a ×2, and then the other one gets to make that family worth more, so it's double the points. And that last one is a perfect thing to give the person the green, which is worth -8 or something. I always have fun with that. And the other one, I just love forcing a tie when I see 2 players fighting back and forth and neither of them get anything out of it.
The game just has flow, and it's smooth and quick paced. And whenever we're done playing it, I want to play it again. And not because it felt, usually that's a sign that the game was too short or I almost won and I want another shot at it. But even if I just won, I want to play again. Like it has a you need to. I think my favorite moment was when we finally clued into all the little details on the cards. Yeah. Like when I realized that the spy cards are all wearing masks and then that each family's mask is actually a different design. Like that was just cool. We all kind of geeked out about that when we first noticed it.
Now, as Mo's favorite moments tell you, this is a take that game, and that can certainly impact who this game is for. But I wouldn't say it's not cruel. It's not a vicious take that game. There are definitely take that aspects, and you will be frustrated during this game, absolutely. But if you're willing to accept a little bit of frustration, this game may well be for you.
So if all that sounds fun to you, go pick up this game. The other advantage of it being a small box game with not a lot of components, even with the deluxe cards and a cloth mat, it is under $30 MSRP. And you can often find it cheaper. This is a great game for those who love a ton of player interaction and backstabbing, where you really have to watch what everyone else is doing and not just focus on your own thing. You are forced to interact with the other players every single turn. Like, you don't have to worry about people grabbing their phones when you're playing in the middle of a game of Courtisans. And then, as Sean warned, yes, this is a backstabby game. So if you don't like backstabbing your games, you're probably going to want to stay very far away from this. And if you prefer multiplayer solitaire puzzle games where you're going to solve it on your own, this also probably isn't for you.
Yeah, if you get cranky at being stabbed in the back, this is not your game. There is no turtling down in this game. But if you want something that is straightforward and easy to teach, something that's quick yet strategic, that has lots of player interaction without any bluffing or social deduction, then step right up. Here's your game.
Although there could arguably be some bluffing based on the spies.
The spies.
It's
Minimal
still
bluffing. Now, of course, one of the things that really makes the game stick out is its component quality. I know we're kind of harping on this, but like the nice, thick, gold accented tarot size cards, the striking artwork, the way it integrates the roles in the game. Because once we discovered the mask, we then noticed, oh, wait, all the assassins have daggers. Oh, wait, all the guards have shields, and all the shields are unique. The cloth mat replacing your standard board. That's all really nice. Like it really does. I know people like to say, the artwork and component quality doesn't matter as much as the gameplay, but it really does bring this game to another level. What's a game you like that has top-notch, top-of-the-line production, a game that's brought to the next level because of its feel, its look, its style?
Leave a comment wherever you found this review, or send an email to mo@tabletopbellhop.com, or start up a conversation over on our Discord.
The modern classic abstract strategy board game Santorini is back with a new second edition featuring upgraded components, a streamlined rulebook, rebalanced gods, and new artwork.
So Santorini second edition comes from designer Gord, going back to the original, and artists Lena Cassette and Dave Forrest. Comes from Roxley Games and is being distributed here in Canada by Asmodee, who we do have to thank for hooking us up with a sample copy. This game still plays 2 to 4 players, good for players aged 8 or so and up, and games are usually done in under half an hour. Though I gotta say, if you get a couple of experts playing against each other, it can take significantly longer, which makes sense for a chess-like abstract.
One of the things that has always stuck out about Santorini is its component quality and its table presence. This is a game about moving figures and building multi-tiered buildings out of white blocks and capping them off with blue domes so that you get buildings that look like those found on the Greek island the game is named after. This game has fantastic table presence. Like, we saw that in effect at our local con, The Summoning, last weekend. We set this game up and it just drew people over like a magnet.
Yeah.
What is great to see, the new retail edition of Santorini features even better component quality than the original and much better quality than the cheaper Spin Master version that came out in between. The buildings feature new texture and more detail. Workers are larger and each one is a unique sculpt. The domes now come in a variety of patterns. The playing pieces are larger than before and the artwork has even been updated. This really is a great looking game that now looks better than ever.
Yeah, and now if you really want your game to look amazing, there's also a Santorini Pantheon edition that's even more deluxe. It's got a lazy Susan, and the board actually has ridges to keep the buildings in place, more gods, and more ways to play. But honestly, that's not what we're reviewing here. We're just looking at the retail copy you should be able to get at your friendly local game store. Now, the retail version of Santorini 2nd Edition features 32 god cards and 4 modes of play. Now, that's 2 more gods and 1 more mode of play than the original Roxley version. Rulebook has been streamlined significantly, making the game even easier to learn. And a nice new feature that's on the different mode cards are various god pairings for different player counts, so you get the best experience out of the game, though you can still play with random gods.
Back in 2004, Santorini originally started out as a pure abstract strategy game, which was originally self-published. The basic mechanics are still the same as the first edition. Each turn, you need to move one of your workers and then build a building section onto a spot next to where you just moved. The buildings can go up to 4 high, consisting of 3 blocks and then a blue cap. When you're moving, your worker can go up 1 level or jump down any number of levels. And the entire goal of the game is to get one of your workers onto the 3rd floor of a building, and the first person to do this is going to win.
Now, what Roxley added to that original game and what led to the huge success, including multiple award nominations, wins, and recommendations, are asymmetric god powers. At the start of each game, each player gets a god card that gives them a unique ability. You can use the recommended pairings, draft for gods, or assign them randomly.
So the god powers include things like moving twice on your turn, or building, and even building in the middle of that move. Building twice on your turn, being able to push other players back, placing caps onto the board to prevent anyone from building on that square, being able to move any number of spaces in one direction, jumping up multiple levels, and a ton more. Just in the retail box, you have 32 different gods, each with its own unique power.
Something new to this version is a 12-sided die that has 4 different colors on it. This die comes into use with some god powers to determine direction, and the colors match the corners of the new seaboards for your playing board with this edition. And this adds some randomness to the game, which didn't exist with previous versions.
When playing with 2 or 3 players, each player controls 2 workers. When playing with 4, instead you play in teams, where each of you controls only 1 worker. New to the second edition is the Agora play mode, where the start player assigns gods to all the players, and every time someone goes up a level, they roll the die. And if they get a 1, 2, or 3, everyone passes their god to the left.
Now, I own both the original Roxley version of the game and this new second edition. And while I admit I didn't go card by card comparing every single god and every single power, based on the plays we've had with this new version, it does seem a little better balanced. The rule book is definitely easier to read, teaches the game quicker. It's got a nice intro page that kind of summarizes everything. The larger playing pieces definitely look cool. They're a little chunkier and easier to manipulate and still stack on the buildings perfectly fine. I appreciate the more detailed buildings, and I got to say I was oddly filled with joy when I noticed the roofs were different.
I am just oddly filled with joy with stacking those little buildings up. Like, it's almost toyerific, all those cute little plastic building pieces. It's got table presence galore. So did our previous edition, but yeah.
Now, as for the gameplay, well, I honestly fell in love with this game back with the original edition. I didn't get to try the pure abstract, the self-published by Gord version, but the original Roxley version is fantastic. It's still in my collection. It's right behind me here as I record this video. It was regularly played almost 10 years later. Like any game in my collection that still sees regular play after almost 10 years is pretty impressive. I love it at 2 players. It has an almost chess-like feel at 2 players. It's super cutthroat, feels intellectual, right? But I also like it playing with 3 or 4. 3 is a very busy board. There's people everywhere, and it's so easy to cut someone off. This new edition does feel better, though. Like it feels better balanced. The recommended god mix matchups is actually very appreciated. And I found the matches very interesting. I do find the god cards describe the powers better on the back of the card than the original and gives a little more clarification, which I just think comes from a game that's 9 years old with lots of forums and people arguing over the exact wordings of things. Well, they were able to put all of that in this new version. And honestly, we have fun playing every different combinations we've tried. And no, I have not tried all 32 different gods at this point, but yet to find a stinker in myself.
I love this game. I will play Santorini anytime. I love playing it with just the 2 of us. I think I like it best at 2. I dig it at 3, but I don't love the teams at 4.
That's not surprising.
Oh, Deanna doesn't like team play. How weird. I do love that they give the cards that list recommended god matchups for each player account in this edition. Like there's a card for 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, and I mean, there's something to be said for just going wild and drawing randomly from the god deck, but I love the balance that's found with the recommended pairings. You know you're not going to get a stinker or be put into a position where it's your power's ineffectual against your opponent, right?
So yeah, overall, I really dig Santorini. Now we've got a new version that's just better. Like, I'm super happy we got this one. What I can't decide now is, do I keep my original? I can't decide. My main reason for keeping both was now we could have 2 copies out in an event. So if 2 different people want to play it, they can both play it. Or maybe I'll just pass it on to someone else who will love it. Now, I got to say the real question, I think probably a lot of people listening to this right now are asking themselves the $10,000 question, or I guess I should say $50 US MSRP question, is it worth upgrading to Santorini 2nd edition if you have 1st edition? Well, I'm not going to be able to answer that for you, but if I was going to make that purchase, if I was sitting here having now played the new edition and I didn't have a copy, I think what I would do is sell off my old copy, use the money I get for that to buy the all-in Pantheon edition. There's just so much more content in there. 100 gods, 12 different modes, and then all of the expansions, the Golden Fleece and everything, which are sold separately all together. I think that is what I would go for. Now, that's me. Now, who I really think this is for, though, are the people who haven't discovered the joy of Santorini. This is one of the best abstract games in the market, and it has the advantage of not just being a two-player chess lake. There are a ton of two-player chess lakes. There are many that we love. This also plays 3 and 4. The second edition is great looking. It's a high-quality version of, honestly, one of the best abstract games ever published. It's not cheap, but you get a shocking amount of plastic and table presence in this box. And the card quality is great, too.
Yeah, I agree. Component quality here across the board is fantastic. It's a great game, and this printing makes it look good, but nothing here makes me want to upgrade from our old version.
Well, that's pretty unanimous. Santorini's second edition is a newly updated version of a great game made even better with balance tweaks, component upgrades, new options, and more. Honestly, everything we could hope for in a new edition of a modern classic.
All right, I want to leave everyone here with 2 questions. First off, what's a second edition of a game that was just like the perfect upgrade, like a logical next step, exactly what you wanted from a second printing or a second edition? Second, what's a game you love that needs that? That's something that needs a second edition. Like there's a bunch of expansions that have come out, or people are confused where to start, or there's all these Board Game Geek rule forums, but once you get through them all and figure the game out, it's fantastic. What they need to do is now publish it with an updated rule book. What is a game that could use the second edition fix?
Give us your answer by leaving a comment wherever you found this review, or send an email to mo@tabletopbellhop.com, or start up a conversation over on our Discord.
Well, that was the double bell.
That means our shift's coming to an end, and we're going to have to lock the lobby doors, but they'll be open again next week.
Before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank a selection of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons, all of which are awesome. We greatly appreciate you sticking around even when we haven't been producing as much content as we would like to be.
Thank you, Chris Leary.
Thank you, David Hutchinson.
Roger Malash, thank you.
Diane Tuzano. Thanks, Di.
Thank you, Kator.
Jeff and Sheila Seuss, thank you. Well, your first step to finding us should be at tabletopbellhop.com, but you can find us all over the web as Tabletop Bellhop, one word, and on your podcatcher of choice as Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast.
We love answering your game and game night questions. It can be online, it can be through email, it can be here on the podcast, or even better, even at our public play events here in Windsor. Feel free to come up and ask your questions. That's where our topic tonight came from, which I think is pretty cool. You can send your questions if you can't be here in person and you don't get to meet us at one of our local events. You can email questions@tabletopbellhop.com, or go to the website, click on Ask the Bellhop, and there'll be a form for you to fill out. Or, you know what? I'm on all the socials. Just send me a direct message or post it publicly, and then maybe you'll get more than just our opinion.
If you love this episode, leave us a review over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And please share this episode with other gamers that you think might enjoy it.
That's all for tonight.
For the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Deanna.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you.
And
game
on.
on.